I've been talking about this all morning. There's some new information in the death of Trayvon Martin. CNN political analyst Roland Martin's been talking with Trayvon's family. He hosted a town hall yesterday in Florida along with the attorneys who attended. Roland, I know you've had a chance to speak to Trayvon's mom and dad. How are they doing and what do they have to tell you?
Right. Well, I mean, obviously very emotional. I mean, you saw that last night, not only at the community forum, but also at the town hall. And they have made it clear that they want answers in this and they want an arrest. What really angered them was this report as to why he was suspended and what they say, what also the attorneys say. I talked to Natalie Martin this morning on the Tom Joyner Morning Show for my segment, and she said the circumstances of this case will be determined by what happened on the night of February 26th, not what happened previously when he was in school.
And you're talking, of course, about some details that were released about Trayvon. He'd been suspended a couple of times from school for truancy, graffiti, and then a baggie that had a marijuana residue. It was in his backpack, and he was suspended for that. His mother has said that was damaging.
The family called it character assassination. Yeah, I mean, the family, they said, look, you are trying to do a character assassination of our son. And what they have said, also the attorneys, is that you're trying to flip this to say, okay, Trayvon was the problem here, when what they keep going back to is what happened on that night. Why did George Zimmerman say he was suspicious? What was he doing walking back from a store? And so Zimmerman didn't know that he was in school, didn't know that he had been suspended. And so their point is, how is that germane to what took place on that night?
When I was talking to the special prosecutor who's now been assigned to the case, so much of what she said was, you know, we're going to look into that. We're going to look into that. We're going to investigate that. We're going to look into that. When we spoke to Joe Oliver, a friend of George Zimmerman, earlier today, one of the things that he said was, listen, as an African-American man who's a friend of George Zimmerman's, this is not about race.
Well, here's the question that I would have for Joe Oliver. Why did George Zimmerman call him suspicious? What was the basis of that? See, this is where it all starts. This all starts with him seeing this young man, making a phone call, and then saying he's suspicious. Then he pursues him. And so then the question, see, here's the problem with George Zimmerman. You can't be the hunter and the hunted. You can't say I'm pursuing somebody, but then all of a sudden say, oh, now it's self-defense. Because if I'm Trayvon Martin and I see some guy driving an SUV and all of a sudden they're following me, there's an issue. But here's what the attorneys also say. You have a timeline that exists with a phone call that Trayvon Martin was on the phone with his girlfriend from 7:12 to 7:16, and you can match that up with the timeline of the 911 calls. And according to the police report, they arrived on the scene at 7:17. And so you have a girlfriend who says she hears Zimmerman approach. She says, according to the attorneys, that she said, Trayvon, just run. He says, no, I'm not going to do that. And so how does Zimmerman deal with that as well?
Obviously,
you also have to examine where was...
I'm sorry, I was going to say that's what the special prosecutor said.
And the problem here, Soledad, is this... Right. And this is the problem here is self-defense really is a legal argument. And so that's what you make in a courtroom as opposed to making it outside of a courtroom. The family has said, we want him arrested. We want this adjudicated. And so these should be conversations that a jury should be hearing as opposed to determining it at a scene of a crime.
All right, Roland, I got to ask you this. The former head of the NAACP is accusing Reverend Al Sharpton and Reverend Jesse Jackson of exploiting Trayvon's death to, quote, racially divide the country. He said this: his family should be outraged at the fact that they're using this child as the bait to inflame racial passions. That's Reverend C.L. Bryant. He, I should mention, has a new movie out called Runaway Slave about black on black crime.
Right. Here's what I would tell Reverend C.L. Bryant. How much attention did this story get before black bloggers and folks on social media begin to drive the story? Would you even have a special prosecutor right now had the attention not been placed on it? I would say absolutely not. And I would say, where's Reverend C.L. Bryant? Where is he fighting for justice? As simple as that.
Roland Martin updating us on what's happening there in Sanford. Thanks, Roland. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.